Okay, so good morning, everybody. This is, I'm Tracy, and I'm with the Mental Health Education Resource Center. And this is our series called Rocking Your Recovery, where we interview people that are in the community, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're rocking the recovery in one way or another. So today we have Gilles Ferland, and he is from Winnipeg, from St. Boniface. He is Francophone, from what I understand. So maybe he can work in a little French there, maybe. He's
Bonjour.
also, thank you. He's also doing some fantastic work with his creative side, with jewelry making. He rides a motorcycle, and he is rocking his recovery from anxiety and depression. So he's with us today to talk a little bit about that and talk about himself. So welcome, Gilles.
Hi.
Hi. How are you doing today?
Hi. I'm doing okay today.
Mm-hmm.
We wish it was nicer outside, mind you, but hey.
Yeah. It's up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Gilles, maybe you can tell me a little bit about yourself. I've heard some interesting things about you, and I know that you've had some struggles in your past, having lived with depression and anxiety. But now you look like you're, you're, I guess what we call it is rocking your recovery in one way or another. So can you tell me a little bit about how you got into where you are right now?
Slowly and surely. It's
Okay.
not something that happens overnight. Like, I'm still learning and I'm still recovering.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a lifelong thing, but I've got the will to do it. So yeah, that's the one thing you need to keep on going.
Maybe tell me a little bit about where you've come from, how things started out for you. I mentioned that you're from Winnipeg. What were things like before you discovered maybe that you were dealing with depression and anxiety? What was your life like before? Growing up?
Normal, I thought.
What, you found out differently?
Well, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like childhood and everything was great. Everything was great. Family was great, so on and so forth. It's just when I started hanging out with friends, I used to have to drink a lot just to be comfortable in situations. That's how I found out, asking questions, that I was suffering from anxiety and stuff, and social
Anxiety?
social
Yeah.
anxiety.
Okay. And it's not uncommon for people that, especially in their teens, who are struggling with social anxiety, to turn to drugs and alcohol to kind of calm some of the fears and to try to feel comfortable.
Yeah, but I was to everybody's one beer, I was doing 6 or 8 just to be comfortable. So
Yeah.
I kind of figured there's a little problem there. That's why I kind of asked for help, and yeah, I found out about anxiety. So I got sent to a psychologist and got meds prescribed and read books and so on and so forth, and learned to cope with it and learn from it.
So when you first looked at getting help, how easy was it for you to find resources? You said you found a psychologist, but what was the beginning point like?
It was he was a counselor, and I was way back in my 20s. What happened is, I actually had a kind of like breakdown while talking to my mom, and she has suggested this one person she had through a friend. So I got to see her, and through, I think it was like weekly sessions, talking, opening up, and yeah, that's when she suggested I see a psychologist, and we tried some meds and got something that kind of evened me out, I guess.
Okay.
Because it is a chemical imbalance in your brain.
Yeah.
And yeah, I kind of went along with that.
So did that change how other things were going? Like once you discovered that there was an anxiety issue, were you able to drink less to feel comfortable? Did that change how you were at all?
After a while, yeah. Like, it took a lot of reading and understanding and learning, I guess, more than anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess after that, over the years, I kind of just went with the flow and thought like the pill was doing everything and didn't really worry about anything. So yeah, I thought the pill was doing the magic for me.
Okay. And did that change? Did your thinking change about that the medication was the main answer, or?
Yeah, because like in my late 40s, early 50s, which would be like 3 years ago, I came to the point of just coming home and attempting suicide. So after that whole thing, it's like, yeah, kind of different. It's not the magic pills. It's actual work you got to do on yourself.
Okay. So that's what you discovered with that. The medication helped for a while, it sounds like.
Yeah, the medication helps for a while. It balances things out so you can actually think clearly and actually work at it.
Yeah. But not enough over time.
No,
it's not enough over time.
No, the pill will help, but it's an actual thing you've got to do every day is work at it.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. You can't just think that the little pill is going to do everything for you. You actually have to be conscious and like do something about it every day.
So can I come back to that? You said that just 3 years ago, you came to a point of really losing hope, to the point of thinking about or attempting suicide. Was that what you said?
Yeah. Well, I didn't really think about it. It's just I was having trouble in relationship, and it's thinking about it is it. I've been on a hamster wheel, so I've been repeating the same situations in every relationship, and they always went wrong.
Okay.
I thought this one was gonna be it, and it was still happening the same way. And I came home from work one day, and I just had enough of. Plus the stress of the job, mind you, that you got to throw that in.
Yeah.
I had enough that day. And I just wanted it over with.
So when you're on that wheel, because a lot of people describe it like that, there's just this wheel that never ends, and it's almost impossible to get off of that once you're in it, and just going, or repeating the same patterns over and over again too. As you were saying.
It's realizing you're on the wheel. I didn't know I was on a wheel.
You just thought that was normal.
I had to like literally try to end my life to find out that I was on a wheel of doing the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
Then you come out of everything, and it's like, it's teaching a dog new tricks, because like been doing it this way for 50 years, and then you got to change everything. When they say baby steps, they ain't lying, because it ain't easy, and you're gonna fall, and you gotta get back up.
So what was your turning point? You came to a real low 3 years ago. What was it that made you decide not to give up, but to keep going? Was there something that awakened you to a new reality, or?
Well, let's just say spending, I don't know how many days in emergency in a padded room, and then being in McEwen for over a month, and I had my kids come visit me.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, that was it for me. It's like, what the heck am I doing here? And that's where I really lost it. And that's where I really said, whoa, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this to them.
Okay. In some self-help circles, they call that hitting bottom. For some people, there might be sort of a feeling of this is low for me. I'm hitting a bottom here.
Oh, it was bottom, and I was I probably broke through the bottom of the bottom type thing, because
yeah,
like to want to end everything and not think of anybody else. Like
Yeah.
that's scary as, excuse the language, but no, I won't. Yeah, it's scary as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said you were in the hospital, you were there for about a month, your kids are coming to see you. Was there anything that you experienced in the hospital that gave you some help or some insight? Or was it more just coming from, this is not a place I want to be. I don't want to, this is not what I want for myself.
There was a Dr. Pino, and we talked. But where I actually was able to make the connection and what he was telling me and so on, he explained it as a game of chess.
Okay.
About the mindfulness, about watching your moves, making sure what you do, thinking before acting, thinking before speaking, like just a thought process. And I thought that was impossible, but like, no, it's like, you've got like 3 seconds or 4 seconds. You've got time before you say or do anything.
Right.
Think clearly. So yeah.
So
now I look at the pool before diving. You know what I
so
mean?
before you were on this wheel and you didn't even know you were racing sort of against time. And then you come into a place, sometimes a hospital, you're really contained, right? You're off the wheel and you don't have anything to do but really look at yourself. And then having this doctor that helped you to do that, say, you know what, this is mindfulness, you know, looking at really taking a close look, looking at the steps you want to take, looking at who you are, I'm guessing as well.
Well, yeah, and that was a first step. Like that was the beginning of anything, but that was limited too because they can only keep you inside for so long.
Yeah.
You got to come out in the real world.
So what was that like for you? Did you feel like you were kind of in a safe place and then you got to kind of move out of there and make things happen again, or?
It was strange coming out of there because you had support in there, you had everything. And yes, I had my family and everything, but it's like they weren't the professionals, I guess. That was the way of looking at it. They weren't like the doctors there to help. They're a family.
Right.
So yeah, it was scary coming out of there and like going at it on my own, and then trying to find services and more help was difficult.
So what did you have to do to find what you needed in terms of services and help?
They had given me, I think it was called the mental health newsletter or something like that, with a bunch of info in there.
Oh, mental health resource, like the resource guide.
The newspaper, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I looked through that, but finally it's like anything and everything to do with it takes a long time to get into it.
Yeah. Waiting
so
list.
So I came to the point I found my own psychologist and paid out of pocket for that. And through this person, she had heard about a program going through U of M at Health Science Center called the STAT program.
Okay.
And so she helped me get involved, get into that program. And that was a program of a few months, I think, and like every day for a month or two or something like that.
Okay, so maybe can you tell me something about that? What are it sounds pretty intensive.
Yeah, it's like a group setting with psychologists, social workers, stuff like that, and like they teach you mindfulness. They teach you cognitive behavior
Therapy, CBT. Is that
CBT?
Yeah.
And it was a place to talk, really, with everywhere. There was no shame because everybody kind of understood. Although we were all suffering from different issues, we all kind of were on the same page.
So what difference does that make, is having that group that you can talk to about some of your difficulties and talk about mental illness, talk about feelings? What difference did that make for you to be able to do
Huge.
that. Yeah.
It's like I found out later about peer support too. So speaking to somebody who's been through an event, who can relate to it, is way easier than speaking to someone who just knows how to relate to it from a book sense.
Okay.
Like, they're both great.
Yeah.
They're both great, but it's way more comfortable to speak to someone that's been through something that's relatable.
Yeah.
For me anyways, I seem to open up way more with that. And I've noticed people will open up way more to me about it too. So, yeah.
So maybe tell me a little bit about that peer support. So you said you saw psychiatrists, social workers, psychologists, and you said that was helpful. But the peer support, there's something more, even more meaningful, to have someone who has been there in some way, maybe not exactly the experience you've had, but that is equally as useful as seeing a so-called professional.
Yeah. I don't know how it turned out. Maybe it's through information or something, but I wound up at finding out about the Manitoba Mood Disorders Association.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if I made an appointment or just kind of walked in there one day and started talking to someone. And yeah, it was comfortable. Then I heard about programs they were offering, so I took a few of those. Then that's where I found out about that it was actually called peer support.
Oh, okay.
So I took some training with that, and I started answering phones for them for their crisis line.
So you started helping others at that point.
Yeah, because it helped me. So yeah, if it can help others. And for me, it was never easy to talk about my feelings or emotions or anything like that. Like, that's, how do you say this? I'm not a girl, I'm a guy. Women,
Were you
well,
taught,
it's
were you
true.
taught as a
Oh,
guy that you don't
guys
cry, you
don't
don't feel?
cry.
Yeah.
Women are way more, it's way easier for them to talk about the emotions and everything else.
Yeah.
We kind of keep everything bottled up and we push it down as far as it goes, not knowing that sooner or later it's going to blow, and you never know what's going to happen.
It's like an explosion, either outward or inward or both.
Yep. And that can go very bad.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a huge insight, though, is to realize that as a man, that it's okay, and that the damage that gets done by holding all of that stuff in for so long is it's really self-destructive in the end.
Yes, and I think that's changing a bit in this new generation, but like guys like my age and farther, like, yeah, that wasn't the way we were taught.
Do you have sons?
Yep.
How old?
I got one that's 15-year-old, and I got a daughter who's 17.
Yeah. So your kids, how are they feeling about you these days?
Good. Like, we get along great, and I've knocked down a few barriers of my own, like being honest with them and stuff. We started talking, and then my daughter has come to me to talk, and just advice-wise, not really advice, but just to lay it on the line. And I've related stories to it. Like, we did things, we went through things, and there's a reason for it. So, share. My son, he's a boy.
And that's what I was going to ask. Is there any way?
It's changing. He's starting to talk. It's also 15, right? And you're going on. It's also that age right now. But yeah, they're good.
So do you think in some ways you might be a role model for him, though? For both of them, for sure, but especially for him in terms of how you live your life, how you express yourself, uh, being vulnerable, which is something that's not considered very masculine, right?
Huh, that's a hard question because of situations and stuff. I've never considered myself a role model and stuff, but I know what growing up, me with his mother, and me getting angry, and then seeing this, and then seeing them get angry, and it's like, oh, they learned that from me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of doing things way differently now,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, they're noticing these things
Mm,
because I'm not the angry one anymore.
great.
Like what somebody told me is like, nobody's gonna listen to a shit show,
Yeah.
but do it calmly, and yeah, you'll get heard. But if you're just screaming and yelling and nobody's gonna listen to you,
Yeah.
nobody's gonna acknowledge you. You're just gonna walk away because you're just being an idiot.
So
It's like,
has that been part of your recovery process, is learning how to express uh, difficult emotions, anger, learning how to make that more productive for yourself?
yes.
And I'm just asking because I can relate.
No, at one point in time, when they were younger, my kids and their mother came to me and told me they were scared of me. And that kind of blew me away. So that led me to take a few anger management
Okay.
courses.
And you're a
But I
big
took those
guy.
courses.
You're a
Yeah,
big
but
guy. And yeah, yeah. So
I
that
took
could
those
be.
courses.
Yeah.
But
And
I never listened to the part of, you still got to practice this stuff. It's like, just because you took the course, nothing's changed
right.
unless you take it away with you and you constantly do with it and be mindful about it. That's the one thing I learned in that stat course, is how to be mindful in it. Because I used to be the guy, you cut me off, I'll chase you down and get out of my car and chase you. And they told me to start watching when that starts happening, to actually stop it before it gets to that point.
Mm.
And that took time. Noticing became easier and easier, and I stopped doing that, and I kept control of myself. I didn't lose control.
Okay. So is
Now I'm
that
just,
part of the awakening too, is regaining, by understanding yourself, you can regain some control. You can live from a place that feels more real and better for yourself. If a person's acting out of anger and just blowing up all over the place, they probably don't feel too good about themselves, I'm thinking.
no, and I used to do that very often.
Yeah. So then your self-esteem is going to come down too, because you suffer with that regret and the remorse, and then you feel shitty, and then it comes back out again. So it's a
And stay away from,
self-perpetuating cycle.
yeah,
I'm
and you stay
thinking.
away
Yeah.
from it. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I understand about depression is that sometimes what we find out is repressed anger is people that repress all of their anger become depressed. But sometimes people who, especially for men, sometimes the only acceptable feelings to express are sometimes like anger. They're not really, it's not socially acceptable to express those other ones, like we were talking about, the more vulnerable stuff, the sadness. And so
Yeah.
some guys develop this external, this persona of being big and
Yeah.
angry and scary, right?
Yeah.
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 So it must be difficult, or have been, it's a real shift to show the other
It's
side.
yeah, but you do wind up being better off for it.
So
And
how have things become better for you because of that awareness and that change and taking more control over your emotional self? How are things better now because of that?
Well, for one thing, when I'm angry, I'm able to explain myself and say why I'm angry and do it in a calm way and not like, and have people listen to me, not just like ignore it and walk away.
Right.
I can have a discussion instead of just screaming out loud.
Yeah.
That's just one of the things.
So that improves your relationships, I'm thinking.
Well, yeah, it improves your relationships, but there's way more relationships to work on than just that. Like
it's a lifelong learning.
Yes, because it's hard not to go back to what you know.
Yeah.
It's very easy to fall back and do what you know, and then you realize it, and it's like, I'm back on the wheel again.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's where that mindfulness comes in, right?
Yeah.
It's being aware.
Does. And it's to remember to stay aware.
Yeah. Do you have people in your life now that are on that path with you, that understand what you're doing and how you're changing and how you're trying to live your life? Is that different for you now too?
Yeah, that's different because, yeah, of course, you change your ways, you're going to meet more and different people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just meeting them for an hour and stuff. But yeah, you once you start, I don't know if you call it opening up yourself to it or just learning differently. But yeah, you different people cross your path. That's for sure.
So it's almost like you become a magnet for different experiences and different people as you start to become more real and more who you actually are underneath all of that.
That's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's one thing that I've come to see in people that are really going with their recovery in terms of really uncovering a lot about themselves, living out of more of their real self. They tend to shine and they tend to attract like people and like situations to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, you also have the people that take it to the next level and then they go and preach about it. And it's well, yeah.
So you don't have to preach, you can just live it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because
that's well put. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. So living your recovery rather than talking about it.
Yeah. Because like there's, what's that saying? There's proof in the pudding, right? And it's like, we'll find out about your whatever, your story, and then they see you're just doing, and then like, yeah, you can learn way more by seeing than like being told. Yeah.
And then I'm guessing for you, you've been doing stuff that enriches your life, which is also part of who you are. So tell me about things that enrich your life right now that maybe you weren't doing before or that you're tapping into.
Well, I got into making beads, jewelry, like beads, like, hey, can you see that? Bracelets.
Wow. Gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, colorful.
That got me, that was something that actually got me out of my head, stopped me from thinking and going to those places. And I'd lose like hours and hours of time just being happy.
Just doing your jewelry
doing
making.
That,
yeah.
Not worrying about anything.
Yeah.
So stress came up and so on and so forth. Like that was my go-to thing, just to escape. It was cool.
Yeah.
And then I had a lot of it.
You did so much of it.
So I started giving it away.
Really?
Like literally giving it away. Like I'd carry it with me and I'd just be randomly giving it away.
And these are the bracelets?
Yeah, the bracelets.
Yeah.
Like guys on the streets with their signs, here's a bracelet, or like just walking on the street. And I started seeing their reactions, their smiles, they appreciate it. And that was like pretty cool.
How did you feel about that?
Pardon me?
How did you feel on the inside seeing the reaction?
I felt great for some reason because it was cool to
Mm-hmm.
see. Because it's really like it's a selfish little act. It's not much. It's like beads on a string type
Yeah.
thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're just giving it, and it's like the reaction was great.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. So that just, I guess, got the wheels turning, and started making bracelets, and
Mm.
started relating them to mental health. Like, this is what I do to
Okay.
mental health wise for my head and stuff. And then
Yeah.
took it a step further and decided, well, I'm not in this for the money. I tried to get into it for the money, like start a business from it and so on and so forth. And it was kind of getting complicated, and I kind of went off track because I didn't, this never started for money. This started for me.
Okay.
So I just make stuff, I sell it, excuse me, and 50%, like literally 50% of everything I make, I donate to mental health places like mood disorders, Adam, places like that.
Wow.
And do I cover my costs? I really don't know. I'm really not watching.
Yeah.
Not about that.
So it sounds like you're giving back, you're contributing, you're making change. It's almost like there's a ripple effect. You give away a bracelet, you're making a change for somebody else, even if it's just for the short term. So you're putting it back out there.
I hope so. I think so. I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing like craft shows and so on and so forth, and I've always got a sign saying mental health and 50% going to mental health.
Mm-hmm. What is that? What is that say? What is it you call it? You have a rocking.
Oh, that's just started this year. I started this year for the Winnipeg Tattoo Show. I started saying Rockin' Talking Mental Health.
Rockin' Talking Mental Health, which is very fitting with our title of Rocking Your Recovery.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. We must be on the same wavelength.
Yeah, because I actually went as far as getting that painted on my gas tank for my motorcycle.
Wow.
I had it done for the motorcycle show at the tattoo show. Yeah, so that's cool.
So it sounds like you're really like you are living it. You know, you're making things, you're creating with mental health in mind. You're having even your motorcycle is expressing something about positive mental health. You know, to me it's a message without preaching. It's a message that's coming from inside of you, and you're sharing it.
And I'm trying to make it obvious that I'm approachable to talk about that stuff.
Okay.
Because it's really not an easy subject.
No. And especially for someone who's been taught most of their life to keep all that inside.
Yeah, like guys, men, us.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Mm-hmm. So the ripple effect is that people can start to loosen up a bit, talk about it, share, and that you're putting yourself out there to be an ear and to be someone approachable for others to open up to.
I'm trying, yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a psychologist.
No,
you can just be you.
No, yeah, but I just listen. I can't tell you what to do, but I can. I have enough knowledge, I think, to point you in the right direction for people that can help you. Like the resources that are hidden, and I think a lot of resources in mental health are hidden from the general public.
Yeah, and that's where reaching out, even you take one step and that leads you to another one, leads you to another one, or somebody hands you like that resource guide. It's like, whoa, there's lots of stuff in there. But when you start to make those calls and you find out, well, there's a 6-month waiting list here and there's this there, it can be really discouraging.
Very discouraging.
Yeah. Now, at some of the self-help groups, there is no waiting list, which is great. You can walk into mood disorders, you can contact Adam, you can contact Manitoba Schizophrenia Society, and most of those people and places have got open door. They've got someone who can listen, someone who can talk, and someone who's not treating you like you are strange, or that you're a diagnosis and not a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference.
It does, eh? Yeah.
Huge difference.
Just that human compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've spoken to psychiatrists that looked at me like that compared to somebody who wasn't, and it's an understanding point type of thing.
They get it. Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas, like you said before, psychiatrists, they might have more of the theoretical and some of the practical. But when you just need another human being who's been there and says, you know what, this is going to get better. It's not always going to be like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are your, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I didn't know what I was going to say anyways. That tends to happen every now and again.
I was just going to ask you, what are your hopes now? What are your hopes for now and for the future? What are you planning? What are you hoping for? Or maybe you're not planning. What are you wishing for in your life now?
Keep moving forward.
Okay.
I just got to remember to keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing. And everybody's going to fall.
Everybody's, pardon me?
You're going to slip and fall. And like your emotions, the way you do things and everything. But you got to remember, nobody can tell you one thing and you're cured. You can't take a pill and you're cured. The pills help, the prescriptions help. They help to straighten everything out, but you got to put in the work. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a constant thing. And
so when you're talking to somebody, if somebody's at that stage where they're looking for help and they think that medication is going to be the only thing.
No, medication helps.
Yeah. It's one part, right? Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah. And that's a small part.
Yeah. So it's the other stuff. So advice to somebody, what would you say if you were to, in a couple of sentences, if you were to give advice or recommendation to somebody who is where you were at, maybe when you were in the hospital?
The one thing I keep going back to and I keep hearing, it's like, it's baby steps. Nothing changes overnight. Mm-hmm. It's baby steps, and it's falling, and it's getting back up, and it's going forward. Don't fall back. Keep going forward.
Mm-hmm. So when somebody has a bit of a setback, you don't give up.
No, don't give up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy.
What is the satisfying part of it in the end for you? What is the most satisfying of having taken those steps and continuing to take those steps?
I won't be going back to where I was.
Okay. And you know that now.
Yeah, and it really sucks I had to go there to find that out.
Yeah.
So, like, you got something you want to say, talk. Because going there, it's not worth it. I got lucky because it didn't work. Some of them aren't that lucky.
Right.
So, talk.
You survived, and you've gone beyond survival.
Yeah. And like, the easiest fucking thing to do and the hardest thing to do is talk about it.
Right.
And that can change everything.
Well, Gilles, on that note, I'm going to say thank you very, very much. It was a great conversation, and I think people are really going to enjoy listening and hearing and being inspired, by some of the things that you've shared today. So thank you for joining me. and
Thank you.
and being
Yeah.
so open.
And check out Shay Leroy's shop on Facebook.
Okay, say it again. I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna post it for you, and
Right,
yeah, and so we'll share with people some of that beautiful work that you're doing.